A calm and composed man boards a flight, settling into his first-class seat, ready for a smooth and luxurious journey. But instead of the respect and comfort that such a setting promises, he is met with an unexpected insult. The pilot, the very person entrusted with ensuring the passenger's safety, approaches him with condescension, questioning his presence in first class. The pilot's tone is dismissive, his words laced with prejudice, as if the man's very existence in that seat was an affront. What the pilot did not know, though, was that this man was not just another traveler. He was the owner of the airline, the very company the pilot worked for. This moment, charged with tension and disbelief, wasn't just about one man's mistreatment. It unveiled a broader issue: how people often judge others based on appearances or deep-seated biases. The pilot's assumptions had led him down a path of humiliation that he couldn't see coming. But instead of reacting with anger, the man chose a different approach. He stayed calm, letting the situation unfold naturally. What happened next would leave everyone involved, especially the pilot, in absolute shock. This was not just a lesson in mistaken identity, it became a powerful example of how the tables can turn in the most unexpected ways. The flight was set to travel from New York City to Los Angeles, a routine journey for many of the well-dressed and composed passengers in the first-class cabin. The air was filled with a quiet hum of conversations, the rustle of newspapers, and the occasional clinking of glasses as the flight attendants offered pre-departure drinks. This was a space designed for luxury, where reclining seats and impeccable service met the needs of those who could afford the privilege. Among the passengers was a black man who blended seamlessly into the sophisticated atmosphere. His presence was understated yet unmistakably confident. Dressed in a tailored suit with a sleek watch that gleamed under the soft cabin lights, he exuded the quiet assurance of someone accustomed to success. He carried himself with a calm demeanor, exchanging polite nods with the crew and fellow passengers as he settled into his seat. His choice of reading material, a financial magazine tucked neatly under his arm, hinted at his sharp intellect and professional acumen. He wasn't loud or demanding, but there was something about him that stood out, a subtle air of authority that only those paying close attention might notice. Yet as the minutes passed, it became evident that not everyone in the cabin saw him for who he truly was. For one member of the crew, their assumptions about his place in first class were about to lead to an unforgettable moment. As the flight prepared for takeoff, the pilot emerged from the cockpit, casually scanning the first-class cabin. His gaze lingered on the black man for a moment too long, his expression shifting into one of subtle disdain. Instead of offering a polite acknowledgement or continuing on his way, the pilot approached the passenger with a tone that could only be described as patronizing. "Sir," he began, forcing a tight smile, "are you sure you're in the right seat? First class is up here, not in the back." The implication hung in the air, heavy and unmistakable. The cabin, previously filled with quiet chatter, seemed to fall silent as other passengers turned their attention to the exchange. The man looked up from his magazine, his calm demeanor unshaken. Without a trace of anger, he replied, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." His tone was polite but firm, a quiet challenge to the pilot's assumption. The pilot, however, wasn't ready to let it go. He glanced at the boarding pass clutched in the man's hand and asked, "Mind if I take a look, just to make sure everything's in order?" The passenger handed over the pass with a slight smile, watching as the pilot scrutinized it, looking for something, anything that might justify his doubts. When nothing appeared amiss, the pilot handed it back with a reluctant nod, muttering "all right then," before retreating to the cockpit. The man didn't react with outrage or indignation. Instead, he returned to his seat, resuming his reading as though nothing had happened. He had no need to prove himself, not yet. His composed response was more powerful than any argument could have been, leaving the pilot unaware of the storm he had just set in motion. The flight was well underway when the truth began to unfold. During the mid-flight check-in with the cabin crew, The pilot casually inquired about the passengers in first class, his earlier encounter with the black man still lingering in his mind. A flight attendant, unaware of the earlier tension, mentioned the presence of a special guest on board. Special guest, the pilot asked, raising an eyebrow. The attendant nodded enthusiastically. Yes, sir. The owner of the airline is seated in 3A. It's a big deal. His visits are rare. We're all on our best behavior. The pilot froze, his mind racing. The memory of his earlier condescending remarks hit him like a freight train. Seat 3A. That was the man he had questioned, the man he had subtly insulted without a second thought. A sinking feeling settled in his chest as the realization dawned. He hadn't just offended a first-class passenger, he had disrespected the very person who could determine the course of his career. Desperate to confirm what he had just heard, the pilot discreetly checked the flight manifest. There it was, clear as day. The passenger's name, followed by the title chairman and CEO. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead as the weight of his mistake became undeniable. The pilot's mind raced through every detail of their interaction, his stomach churning with regret. Fear gripped him as he imagined the repercussions, his words, his tone, his assumptions, all laid bare before the man who held his professional fate in his hands. He knew he had made a critical error, one that might cost him more than just a reprimand. For the rest of the flight, the pilot remained confined to the cockpit, too paralyzed by the weight of his actions to face the man again. But what truly terrified him wasn't just the prospect of punishment, it was the uncertainty of what the owner would choose to do next. After the flight landed, the owner of the airline quietly made his way to the corporate office, opting not to address the incident publicly just yet. Instead, he chose to reflect on the situation and its broader implications. He knew this wasn't just about one pilot's prejudice. It was a symptom of a larger issue that required immediate action. Within days, the airline released a statement from the owner himself. In it, he acknowledged the incident, expressed his disappointment, and outlined a commitment to fostering a culture of respect and inclusivity. Our airline is built on the principle of treating every individual with dignity, the statement read. This incident is a wake-up call, and we will ensure it leads to meaningful change. True to his word, the owner implemented a company-wide initiative focusing on diversity and sensitivity training for all employees, from flight attendants to senior executives. The program aimed to educate staff on unconscious bias and equip them with the tools to create a welcoming environment for all passengers, regardless of their background. As for the pilot, his actions couldn't go unanswered. Following an internal review, he was placed on immediate suspension. During this time, he was required to complete an intensive sensitivity training course and issue a personal apology to the owner. While the pilot was not terminated, the message was clear. Behavior like his would not be tolerated, and the airline's standards had to be upheld. The owner's response was measured yet firm. He turned a moment of personal insult into an opportunity for corporate growth, ensuring that no other passenger would have to endure a similar experience. Through his decisive actions, he reminded everyone in the industry that respect and professionalism should never be compromised, no matter who is sitting in the seat. News of the incident didn't stay confined to the airline for long. A fellow passenger who had witnessed the interaction and later discovered the owner's identity took to social media to share the story. Within hours, the post went viral, sparking a flurry of conversations across platforms. The hashtags airline accountability and respect for all began trending as people expressed their outrage and disappointment. Major news outlets quickly picked up the story, framing it as a glaring example of prejudice and the power dynamics that often go unnoticed in corporate spaces. Panel discussions and op-eds delved into the deeper implications of the incident, highlighting the need for systemic changes in the airline industry and beyond. Some praised the owner's calm and strategic response, while others called for a broader reckoning within the company and the industry as a whole. In response to the growing public pressure, the airline didn't stop at a mere apology. They introduced a comprehensive set of policy changes aimed at fostering inclusivity and preventing future incidents. A mandatory diversity and sensitivity training program was launched focusing on teaching employees how to recognize and address unconscious biases. Additionally, the company revamped its customer service protocols, emphasizing respect and equality for all passengers. The airline also announced the creation of a diversity advisory board to oversee the implementation of these measures and ensure accountability moving forward. These efforts were shared transparently with the public, signaling the company's commitment to real change. While the incident initially cast a shadow over the airline, the decisive actions taken in its aftermath began to shift the narrative. The owner's ability to turn a personal affront into an opportunity for growth resonated with many, sparking hope that such situations could lead to meaningful progress. This incident serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance or assumptions about their place in the world. It highlights how prejudice can lead to moments of humiliation not only for those targeted, but also for those who act on their biases. Yet it also shows how justice can be served in the most unexpected and impactful ways, turning a personal insult into a lesson for all. As a society, we must strive to challenge these biases and foster an environment where everyone is treated with dignity. This story isn't just about one airline or one individual. It's about the everyday choices we make and the collective responsibility we share to create a more inclusive world. What are your thoughts on this incident? Have you ever witnessed or experienced something similar? Let us know in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about how we can address and prevent prejudice in our communities. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories and thought-provoking content. Together, we can keep the conversation going and inspire positive change. The story shared in this video is a work of fiction. While it explores themes of prejudice, mistaken identity, and accountability, it is not based on real events. The narrative is intended to provoke thought and inspire discussions about respect, equality,